Yes. Doing well.
So, big thing, obviously, going into this game is the run game of Arizona, not just in the backfield, but with Kyler Murray.
Kind of prepare for that, and what's kind of your expectation of your approach to it all?
Yeah, Ross, they do a really good job with their running game, both with their scheme and I think the way they use their personnel. I think their O-line is extremely well coached. They play with a lot of tight ends. And then I think the running back group runs really, really tough and physical. So I've got a ton of respect for James Conner. I think he's one of the underrated backs in the league. He's got a great story, and he's just a really physical player. And then when you factor in Kyler as a part of that equation too, they're very dangerous in that phase. And that's kind of, been the engine of their team the last couple of years.
I was going to ask you about the tight ends, like the amount of 13 they play is like, I think the highest in the league. And just some of the stuff they're able to do with those guys, like how does that maybe dictate some of the matchups and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, you're adding gaps in the run game and you're adding vertical threats in the passing game. So I think Drew Petzing does a really good job tying it all together, the marriage of the run and the pass. And I think all three of those tight ends complement one another. And it gives them a lot of flexibility with how they play because they all play really different roles but impactful roles for their team. So, they're one of the teams that's unique in that way right now.
I always want to qualify when I ask a 3-4 versus 4-3 question because I know it's not that simple. But in general, is a 3-4 scheme better suited to handle mobile quarterbacks and keep them corralled, do you think, or that's case by case?
I think it's based on your personnel, whether you're 4-3 or 3-4. Your actual people rushing and how you rush the quarterback, that's the biggest factor. And, I think when you're playing a player like Kyler, you're not going to bat a perfect percentage for 4 quarters. So it's really a team operation. It's not just the rushers, it's the coverage players too. And so it's a 60-minute fight against a player like that, and you got to have great stamina. You got to play a lot of people because you want to be fresh in the fourth quarter. To be able to rush him at the end when it counts. But yeah, he's one of the premier guys in the league, running the football and making plays outside the pocket.
Can it be hard to find the right balance between how aggressive you want to be and how you want to make sure you don't leave any openings if you're too aggressive?
Yeah, definitely. You're trying to find the right balance of how to rush them, who to rush them with, and also being really mindful that they've got really good skill players too. So you want to make sure you try to tie your rush and your coverage together and force him to work, make him earn it. And knowing that, he's a really good player. He's going to make plays. Just like in basketball, there's some guys who are going to make shots, no matter how well you cover. So he's going to make some shots, and our guys just got to keep it moving. We got to keep our composure, and we got to try and have our best at the end.
With Chase Young dealing with injury right now, have y'all done anything in that edge rusher room to maybe add another option?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to roll with the guys that we have, and it's going to take everybody in that room and every other room too. So we've got guys that are going to be ready to do the job. That's why we've been trying to prepare so hard in camp, to get those guys live looks. And, some of those guys that are role players, having them play against starters in the preseason and stuff like that, that helps them, so that game one isn't the first time they played against, the big-time competition. So it's going to take everybody. And I'm excited about our guys. They do it the right way, and it's going to be a great challenge for us on Sunday.
Talk about personnel-wise when it comes to managing mobile quarterbacks. How much does that star position sort of factor into that along with the defensive front?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the ways that you can rush them, if you can have multiple different, types of rushers, I think that can help you. But again, in theory, they're faster players, but they're also not used to rushing the passer as much as our guys on the edge. So, it's how you rush them, and it's everybody. If you are going to decide to rush somebody from, the perimeter or from behind the ball, they've got to rush just like the guys up front, and they've got to have that same type of awareness of the pocket and how he plays and then how dangerous he is in the pocket.
I like to how we were talking before about how Julian and Justin complement each other. Do edge rushers complement each other at all? Do Carl and Chase?
Yeah, I do. I agree with that 100%. I think about the Dome Patrol, New Orleans, Pat Swilling and Ricky Jackson. You have a power rusher in Ricky Jackson with a speed rusher like Pat Swilling. I've been fortunate in the NFL, a Khalil Mack and Leonard Floyd, those guys playing together. Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. I think that there's a lot to that. And so, I think if you look at the great combinations, that's certainly, I think, something that you want to have. And I think we have enough versatility here that we can play that way too. And as you mentioned, our guys are accomplished rushers. We've got 3 guys for sure that have, produced at a high level, and Chris has been a veteran in this league for a long time too. And, we have Fidel too, and a couple other guys too that we feel like at least, they fit the description of an edge player. So.
Just on a personal level, like how cool was it for you to be on the opposite sideline from John McDaniel?
Yeah, it's one of those, we've come a long way, since playing each other on the basketball court in the 4th grade. So, he's one of the best I know. He means a lot to me, and, I'm just so happy for him. Not surprised at all where he is, because I've seen it for a long time. So he's done a hell of a job coaching and leading that football team. And on Sunday, it's going to be, one of those special moments that we get to share together. But at the same time, we're there to win. So
One of the more innovative schemes right now, just like the way they use their safeties and disguise and all that stuff.
Yeah, Jonathan's one of the top coaches defensively in the league. But he's not just a defensive coach. I think the way they play offensively fits, very well with how, he believes in leading a team too. And I think on special teams with Jeff Rogers, who I had the chance to work with, Jay's brother, they're very, very specific on special teams too. So he's just a complete coach. And again, very happy for his success.
Had a chance to work together, right?
We have not.
But just a lot of conversations.
We've worked
every
together
year.
without working together, we've both benefited from, I think that love for the game. We've always loved the game ever since we were kids. And, to see him go out and do what he's done, to see him, get off to coaching from the beginning. What a lot of people don't know about him is he would never be a coach if he hadn't gotten hurt. He would have been one of the top DBs in the league. He was a hell of a player at Louisville, and that's what a lot of people don't know because he's too humble. But if he had never gotten hurt, he would have been a pro player for a long time, and he probably would never be a pro coach because he would have made too much money doing that. So, yeah, man, it's just, it's great to have a friend and, somebody that means a lot to you that's doing the same thing you're doing.
Does anything stand out to you about Nick Rallis as well, and the way that he draws up pressure and kind of the design that he brings to it?
No, they got a lot of good coaches on that staff. One of my former players at John Carroll, Matt Feeney's on that staff, who's really important to me. They do a really good job, I think, in all phases of their team coaching. I think Jonathan's put a quality staff together, and I think that you've seen it in how they've played their first 2 years. They've really made a lot of progress, and, I think that he's doing a fantastic job leading that team.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Big part of any
Football game is always sort of these hidden yardage moments and things like that. How do you go about scouting with what you can say, but how do you go about scouting an opposing team and trying to find advantages with all of it?
I think the biggest thing we look for is personnel. I think we're very personnel oriented on our special teams, so we're trying to figure out, okay, who are the really good cover players, and let's make sure we're doing a good job of getting them blocked, and so we can get more return yards. And then who are their good, whether it's the returner or their good blockers, right? And let's try to see if we can't create mismatches. And, if one of their blockers is a linebacker, let's see if we can get a speed guy on him, or if we get a bigger guy on him. So we try to just, we're specific in what we do personnel-wise, just kind of like the offense and defense are, right? When the offense goes into 11 or 10 personnel, defense, good chance they may sub and go nickel. We try to do the same thing special teams-wise.
Even if we lose, when you lose a guy like J.T. Gray, and I was talking about how tough that was, just what was kind of your perspective from it?
Yeah, look, I think that us as coaches and players, we have the greatest job in the world, getting to coach professional football or play professional football, and it comes with a lot of great things. And unfortunately, there's a couple negative things that come with it as well. And so, JT means a lot to me, and it's not, only that losing the production of him as a player. I'm going to miss him as a person, the relationship. You spend 6 years with someone, and just that smile he had every day and the conversations we had. So, like, to me, it's I'm gonna miss him as a person. That's what makes it even more difficult.
The new kickoff rules, special teams rules have any impact on how you can keep special teams guys on the team if they're not necessarily playing a lot of defense?
Yeah, look, I think that comes into play, and I think that comes into play on a lot of teams. Like, I look at the Cardinals, and I think that number 20 for them, their PP on punt and their returner, and I thought he was a really good football player, good special teams football player, and they had a difficult decision as well, and something similar happened, and he wound up going somewhere else, and so I think that's just part of this business of the way it's going right now.
What is Dortch? What kind of challenges does he run into?
Yeah, look, I think he's super aggressive. You go and you watch, and there's a bunch of times where he's catching the ball inside the 10-yard line where he could, let it hit the ground and try to go in for a touchback. I think he only had 4 fair catches last season. So he's aggressive in his approach. I think he's very good short area quickness. He's able to make guys miss, which, that happens a bunch. So he's going to present a challenge for us that our guys are aware of, and, we're excited for the opportunity to go see what we can do.
And then just going back to the JT thing, I assume that means that you guys feel pretty good about some of these younger guys that can fill some of the roles without giving them away a game plan or anything like.
Yeah, listen, I do. I think that, I think what you said, the key word is we have some young guys, right? And so the best experience that they can get is going out there and playing. But from what they've shown in practice in the preseason and college film, I'm excited about a group of young players that I think we can be really, really good. And you've seen flashes of it in the preseason, and they're part of the reason why they were drafted. They're part of the reason why they made the 53 with that big picture plan in mind. So I think we do have a chance to, whether it's Jonas or Stutzman or some of those younger players that we've drafted. I think the other thing that's helped us is we brought in a couple quality veterans between Terrell Burgess and Chris Rumpf and Jack Stoll, who have played special teams in this league, and they bring a calming presence to some of these young guys. So it's a good mix, and I'm really excited to get a chance to go out there and let them play.
The kickoffs, obviously Blake has a few different options he can go with when he's kicking off. Is that a call, or does he decide? How do you kind of manage that in terms of how you're planning to execute, in the landing zone? Yeah,
it is a call, and it's something that we do practice, and we have several different calls that we could take the field with, right? And whether that's, hey, we want to kick the ball in the middle and try to get it to land on the goal line, or we want to kick it directional or right, or we want to try to hit the ball and get it on the ground and see if we can't get it to squib into the end zone and give them, a touchback at the 20. And I think part of that goes back to when you're looking at personnel as well, what returners do they have, and do you think one's better than the other, or have you seen things on film that something maybe gave them a challenge of being able to go field it? So it's all through our film study and game plan, and then practice as well. Look, it's not easy kicking off and getting those kicks in the landing zone and getting exactly how you want it. It takes work, and I think you're going to see that throughout the league. I think that you're going to see a lot of kickers trying different things with the new touchback rule to 35, and I think you're going to see some good from the kickers, and I think you're going to see some that aren't so good as well, just because it's not an easy thing to do.
Something almost obviously kickers their main goal is to make field goals, and the kickoff kind of became a secondary item over however long they were just kicking touchbacks.
Right.
Is the ability to kick different types of kicks and execute them consistently, does that kind of become a difference maker for that?
Yeah, I think it has to be, right? I think if all these kickoff returns are going to be returned because you're not just going to put it into the end zone, then you have to be able to have different kicks so that the kick return team doesn't know where the ball is going every time, right? So you have to be able to change it up, and the execution's key. If we want to say we're going to kick one to the deep right, and all of a sudden now the ball is maybe in the middle or goes off to the left, your coverage changes, right? So that can put our coverage players in a little bit of a disadvantage, and so it's important that those guys are as accurate as they can be.
As we go into the season here, how did the changes to the onside kick rule kind of shape out and impact what you're looking at? I don't know yet. I want to see. I got to be able to see it, and I don't know yet. In all reality, all we're doing is moving the kickoff team up a yard.
So they're starting on the 35 instead of the 34. Still the same alignment rules and that sort of deal. So I think that the thought process behind it was if we give the kicking team an extra yard closer, maybe that's going to uptick in the recovery percentage, because I know, that's kind of what the NFL is looking for, is get the percentage up there. So, but we really haven't had any yet. So, maybe mid-season when we get some on there, we'll see how it's affecting it.
We've probably asked you this a bunch of times already, but like when you have a guy who's so like obviously dynamic as a returner as Sheed is, but who's also like taking on a bigger role, in, scrimmage plays.
Yep.
Like how do you all talk that through as a staff and like kind of choose when and where to use him, or like weigh his value in one spot versus another?
Yeah, I think that it's just ongoing conversations that you have amongst the staff, right? And I think we all want to get our best players to have the ball in their hands because they have a chance to score, and ultimately you're going to win the games when you score the most points. So I think strategically, whether it's offense or special teams, is, how can we get the ball in Sheed's hands, because he's one of our better playmakers. So fortunately for us, I think we've done a very good job from a kick return standpoint. If we have some other guys that I think they can score when they touch the ball as well. So we're able to kind of be selective, and maybe Sheed's not on every kick return. Maybe it's in certain situations that we may want to use him. And I kind of look at that like you're going to look at the offense and defensive players as well. In certain situations, you're going to have certain people on the field of what you're trying to accomplish. And so it's just open communication, amongst the staff and having a plan to go with it.
Is any of that, obviously you missed time with injury last year, is like how much is injury risk weigh into that? Beyond just like the amount of touches and run that guys get?
Yeah, look, I think that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not one that really buys into too much of the injury fear, right? You're either have a helmet and you're playing on game day, or you're not, and so, and our players are competitors too. So if a player says that I know I can do this and I can help our team win, and I say to him, no, you're not going to do that because I'm scared you're going to get hurt, that doesn't send the right message from a coaching standpoint, and the player doesn't want to hear that either. We go and there's an injury risk and it's an unfortunate, and we try to do our best to eliminate injuries, but players want to go play and compete. All good? Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
comes to preparing for a defense like this that's
And pressure from every level, just what's the challenge involved in that?
Well, the biggest challenge for us is communication. And when you play a multiple defense like this, they play in many different structures. You got to make sure everybody's on the same page. So we've stressed all week, to our guys that it doesn't necessarily matter if we've got the ideal call, because you might not always have the ideal call because these guys disguise so well. But the biggest thing is that everybody's on the same page and we execute the calls we're making.
and how much of a challenge is it?
It seems that they will show something pre-snap to force an adjustment and then do something different that attacks that very adjustment. Like, how challenging is that, especially with a young quarterback, or is that helpful in that you can kind of mold that young quarterback to do what you want them to do?
Well, obviously, they're trying to create confusion for the quarterback, and so we would anticipate that we'll get quite a bit of that. And, Jonathan's always been really good at that, so, it's been a trademark of the stuff he's always done defensively. And I think even last year he probably got a little more exotic than he's been in the past. So, we'll be prepared. We're working all different types of looks, obviously, and, with a young quarterback, you can anticipate everything.
Aside from the specific challenge of their defense, what's your message to Spencer this week? Because he's, I'm sure, jacked up to go out and make big plays, and yet I'm sure you want the game to come to him as well.
Well, he doesn't need to do anything than what he's done since we got here. And that's, be process-driven, prepare the way that we've prepared every day since we got here. And just go be you. Let the offense work for you. You don't have to be the offense. Let the offense work for you and do your job.
Is the Arizona defense that John runs compared to what Brandon runs here? I know they've had a background together.
Yeah. All these guys, they're all kind of like stepbrothers or however you want to call them. They're kind of intertwined in one way, but they have their own intricacies. So, like Brandon does a very good job of trying to create doubt and indecision in the quarterback's mind. So there's some similarities, yet there's quite a few differences also. Oh, I think, definitely. When you see that type of structure, in practice, and, it's one of the things when you talk about training camp, why you like to get out and do joint practices is because you get to see a different structure. What happens when you're playing quarterback, your eyes get trained seeing the same thing over and over again. You pick up things when you know what's kind of coming. So it's good to see different styles, and this is a unique style.
I know this is his first week prepping as a starting quarterback, but how much of an extra, prep you seen out of him since he's getting to play his hometown team?
Well, I think that you'd have to ask him that question. I think what I've seen is a guy that's focused, a guy that's prepared the right way, and obviously we still got quite a bit of time before the game, but I believe he'll continue to prepare and be ready to go.
How do you think the elevation, the preparation have really, gone to another level after, he's won the quarterback competition?
I don't think he's changed. I think that's all three guys in the room. I'll say that for him. Nobody's changed. Like we said, it was a tough decision, and everybody's continued to work. Everybody's continued to be about our process and how we do things.
Devon, how have you seen him kind of pick up the offense? Obviously, it's a quick turnaround.
Sure. Really bright guy. Done a really good job. Obviously, he's behind in the learning curve a little bit, which is expected. And, the biggest thing for us is to put things together for him in packages where he can master a package and not try and take on everything at one point in time.
How did his skill set in general, does that make your life easier as an offensive guy? Does that open up some options that might not have existed with the smaller?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Just his skill set, his size, does that kind of open things up a little bit in terms of how you can attack certain situations?
Well, obviously, it's one of the things you love about the player is his length and his catch radius. And obviously, he's a smart guy, man. I'm telling you, like I said, we kind of start in packages, and just to watch how quickly he's picked up the things that we've asked him to do, it's been impressive.
I was going to ask about maybe personal excitement for you being back on the sideline for a regular season game and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it. I've been really just thinking about our team and the Arizona Cardinals, and every time I get a chance to step in that dome, it's special. But this isn't about me. This is about our players and our team and their team.
And with those players getting the opportunity to really get, Alvin Kamara going and everything, just sort of maybe the excitement level around that.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for us, for our staff, at least for most of the staff. This will be our first time. A couple guys have been here in the past or have stayed here, but for a lot of us, it's going to be the first time we're going to take the field, with this group of players. And so we're all very excited. And the biggest thing is it's going to boil down to 11 on 11 between the lines. And biggest thing is for us to play our style of football.
What have your impressions been of Alvin? I mean, we've only seen him for one snap in preseason, but I know you all had extensive work with him in practice. What gives you confidence going into the season with him that you've seen so far?
Well, I have a long history with Alvin, being in Alabama with him when he came out of high school. And so we were there for a year, and then following his career from there on, just, a lot of respect for obviously everything he's accomplished throughout his career. And you see that natural juice when he steps on the field and touches the ball. You feel his juice, and he's got that extra gear, and it's exciting. It's going to be exciting to watch it come out. Obviously he had the one real productive play in the preseason, so it'll be really awesome to see him get a lot more than one coming up on Sunday.
How was Saturday night?
Saturday night was a good night. I think, I don't know what I did. There was maybe a college football game or something like that happened. That's not a good thing.
What did you talk to a particular quarterback about maybe following that game?
Just happy for their whole program. I was go to Clemson. That's a really good football team, and there was two really good football teams. Obviously, it's early in the year, but it was a very good football game.
I don't think we asked you yet or talked about it, but just the obvious fact that your son gets to wear number 18 at LSU. You talked about how much that meant to him. What does that mean to you as well?
I think anytime your child gets recognized by his peers, the people that, I know how important it is for us to talk about what's important in our locker room to our coaches and our players. And anytime, you have a child that gets recognized by his peers and his coaches and the people within his building for being, something that represents what they want their program to represent, I think it's, one, you feel blessed, you feel fortunate, and obviously proud.
Did you see anything that you gave him advice on during the Saturday game that he took to heart and put into action?
Of course, but I won't go there.
Can you tell us a little bit about what has stood out to you throughout this offseason about Dylan Ravens?
Yeah, Dylan's done a really good job, and obviously had to step in with Trevor's injury and has played well, and really excited about what he's done, and he's been dialed in since day one, been assignment sound, and really feel fortunate that we have the ability to plug him in if we need be with Trevor's situation.
How is that an argument to show full display of what this offense can do after working the preseason?
Well, I think that you're still in week one. So we talk a lot about our process. We talk a lot about playing our style of football. And I think that's most important going into this game is that we lean into what the pillars of our program are. We've got to play clean, fast football. We can't have mistakes. We can't have penalties, those type of things. You go out in an opener, we've got to take care of the football. And all those little things that you take for granted, they become really big in openers.
In a game like this, when it's week one and everything's kind of new for both sides, do you find that you focus more on doing what it is that you want to do, or are you still taking into account trying to maybe adjust to some of the things that you're expecting from the other team?
Well, I think there's always that fine line balance every week when you do that. You're always, looking at your opponent and ways to strategically attack them. Yet at the same point in time, you can't make it all about attacking them and forget about who we are and what we do well. So there's always that fine line, and we'll find that balance.
Spencer's scrambling ability, is that something you kind of encourage even, early in games, early in drives, if something positive is there, you can take it? Or how do you kind of approach that part of the game?
Well, play extension is a big part of playing quarterback. And there's different types of play extension. Some guys extend plays from within the pocket, and that means a half-man slide off the midline to buy yourself a little more time before I have to get it out before I'm going to take a hit. Or, to the next level where I actually have to escape and get out and run. So, that's big with all of our quarterbacks. It's a big part of the game, because when you talk about defensive structure, they're built to, win that 2.3, as they say, the beginning of part of the snap. Now, what are we going to do afterwards? And a lot of it is not just on the quarterback. You know, we train the receivers, we train the tight ends, the running backs, all of our passing group. And hey, there's certain places we've got to get and certain reactions we need to get when we get into scramble phase.
Doug, how much has that changed in the last, say, 10 years, maybe 15, I don't know, of the defensive looks changing post-snap on the quarterback? It seems like it's been an evolution over the last period of time, making it difficult for the quarterback.
Sure. You know, I do think there's a lot more disguise going on in the league. You know, a lot of it is the style of offense that's being played, too, because you've seen a big transition from, you know, we go back to the days of the I-backs and big tight end, two backs in the backfield, you know, and really you were in some form of I or you were some form of slot formation. Now you got all these spread formations with empty and that kind of thing. So the defensive guys just aren't going to stand there and let you know what they're in. So they've evolved, and now they create problems for us because it's like, hey, you're getting overload pressures, and there's athletic defensive linemen that are running out in coverage and those type of things that, you know, create problems for you in your hots and sights and those kind of things. So, yeah, it's a chess match that goes on both sides of the ball. Thanks, guys.